What's up, everybody? This is Neil's on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Buy yourself some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium, and look into stocks, mining stocks, whichever ones you'd like to look into. Look into them. This is about, I think, like 2 days ago. I did a report on a questionable fire in the Pacific of a larger boat, and I was like, "Yeah, I think they abandoned ship too early," and blah 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 blah. Well, as you can see by the picture, another ship. It's just amazing how many ships are catching on fire.
Vessel Wanhai 503 is on fire and abandoned off the coast of India. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So I came into the office today to do a video on this, the Allianz report on safety and shipping review, talking about how safe ships are at sea. And then we have this image come in of an abandoned container ship off the west coast of India. We're going to take a look at this, break it down for you, and discuss what is happening right now and the efforts being done to save the crew. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come. This is an image from the Indian Coast Guard. Indian Coast Guard has been really busy, but they are on scene. Aircraft are already there. They have dropped air-droppable life rafts to the vessel, with 4 Indian Coast Guard vessels being diverted for the rescue. The ship was en route. The ship was sailing via Port Klang, the Strait of Malacca, Colombo, and then heading up to Nhava Sheva on a regular scheduled route. We'll take a look at that in a minute. As of now, about 18 of the 22 members of the crew have been rescued. 4 are missing. Let's take a look at some of the imagery taken by the Indian Coast. So this image captures the fire that's taking place up forward on the vessel. You can see the massive fire that has erupted in the container stacks. You'll note here, this little orange thing is the portside lifeboat. It has been launched from its cradle. You'll also see another orange thing here in the lower right part of the screen. That looks like an air-droppable life raft. So they mentioned that they had dropped it. The crew is in the process of abandoning.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here. That cargo carrier that I did a report on burning 2 days ago, all the insurance money getting paid to those companies rather than paying a tariff. It's just a thought prospect. And I was suspicious of that, but I didn't want to say it on that show because it was just, one big vessel on fire. But then 2 days later, we have another big vessel on fire. And I'm looking at all those cargo containers and I'm like, yeah, it's not one of the massive, huge ones, but a smaller company that's transporting goods. And it's the shipping companies that pay the tariffs. And I don't know exactly how it works, or they collect the tariffs from the shipping companies. So the smaller shipping companies have it's more advantageous for them to burn the crap out at sea than it is to pay the tariff and then try and collect it from the people who are shipping the goods and services there. Since these tariffs are new, it's quite possible this boat was already out to sea when those tariffs kicked in, or had already been loaded and waiting to be sent out or whatever. But that's just a possibility. And with all these boats catching on fire, I can't help but think of that.
Abandoning ship, obviously, at this point, getting off the vessel because this is a conflagration that's a little bit too big for the ship's crew to handle. This image gives you a little bit better view of the fire, and 2 things stand out for me on this. Number one, you've had a collapse of the stacks here. You can see that the containers have completely collapsed here, but more importantly, you've had a major explosion on this vessel because containers not have just collapsed, but have actually piled up on top of other parts of the vessel. This image from the bow shows it to you, the inverted evergreen container. Evergreen's always got to get into an accident when it happens. But here you can see the containers blown open. Here you see the doors blown off. This container appears to be an empty one, but you can't really see inside. This is probably a little bit early on, right after the initial explosion, because you don't see all the container stacks here collapse just yet. Here, this image taken from the Indian Coast Guard vessel shows the portside lifeboat is now alongside that other life raft here. One of the things that was noted in the Indian Coast Guard report, a major firefighting and rescue operation is underway following a fire on board the Singapore-flagged container ship vessel MV Wanhai 503, 130 nautical miles northwest of Kochi.
As well.
The Indian Coast Guard has mobilized multiple assets to assist in dousing the blaze and rescuing the crew. The vessel is still emitting dense smoke, raising fears of secondary explosions. 18 crew members have been rescued. 4 remain missing. Search operations are ongoing. Singapore Flag Administration and D&G Shipping have been notified. Environmental protection measures are being initiated. You can see part of a slick, it seems to be forming here, coming out from a midship. This could be from chemicals and material spilling from the containers and may not represent a rupture of the hull yet. All efforts are being made to stabilize the vessel and ensure the safety of remaining crew members and the marine environment. The situation remains critical. This image shows the vessel from astern. You'll notice the starboard lifeboat is still here in the cradle, but here the fire is emanating. The vessel has no way on. There's no propulsion underway at this moment, but fire is sweeping across the length of the vessel. And the fear here is that that fire will spread to the neighboring container stacks. Understand, a 22-person crew, massive explosion on board, 4 crew members missing. You only have 18 crew members left. Firefighting would be very dangerous to do in this case. You're not going to be able to get a lot of water onto that fire. You'll be...
Now, see, I'm sure you guys have seen the New York parades where the fire boats are out there. They get the water because they're boats on water, and they've got big suction tubes that, well, at the bottom of the boat, since it's in the water, and they actually pull water from the water. So for him to say that tells me that the Indian government doesn't have good fire suppression systems for waterborne fires, because that's a readily available technology. As a matter of fact, you get water desalination systems on most every yacht out there where they pull water from the water. So I don't see where the Indian government wouldn't have that same system, which again leads me to believe that they're going to allow it to burn so that all those materials, all the goods and services that are goods, not services, but all the goods that are on those in those containers, the insurance companies have to eat it, and that company gets paid in full and no tariff gets paid. So it's a win-win for pretty much everybody. That's all I'm saying. That's my suspicion.
Working literally below the stacks here, coming from below, trying to get water onto that fire. There is little that can be done to provide any sort of fire suppression by the crew on board. Plus, there's obviously fear of more secondary explosions. Head over to marine traffic and break down this vessel, where exactly it is in its schedule. So here we are on the big global map. Here is Wanhai 503. You can see it flashing right there. Ship had come out from Port Klang through the Malacca Straits. It stopped here at Colombo. Colombo's a major terminal. And now the ship was heading up the west coast of India for its next port of call. For Nhava Sheva was its next scheduled route. Zoom in here a little bit more. Let's see what we can see here. There's the vessel. No other vessels appear to be in the area as of yet. There could be Indian Coast Guard vessels, but they will not be showing their AIS all the time, as they are government vessels. Here's the track for the past 30 days. A vessel was coming out of India, actually making that run through Singapore, up into China, over to Taiwan, and then round back. Here's the information on the vessel. 2005 container ship under the flag of Singapore, 4,252 TEU, 268.8 meters, so roughly around 900 feet. A good medium size, the small size container ship. Wanhai is the 11th largest container liner in the world. It is based in Taiwan. They represent a very kind of smaller end of the major container liners. They have a very nondescript naming system for their ship.
And that right there is, they said it's one of the smaller worldwide shipping companies. And what that means is they getting paid. The bigger shipping companies usually have the huge 1,000, 2,000 foot long shipping containers that has like 1,000 shipping containers. That one had maybe like 100, 150, 200 on it. So it was one of the smaller ones. But if you notice on its path, it went from India to China, then Taiwan, then came back, showing that there's still business happening between China and Taiwan. Because if there was like high tensions between the two countries, they wouldn't allow third-party vessel boats to come into a Chinese port, go straight to a Taiwanese port, and then go out. That would be like a security risk. So it makes me wonder, again, conspiracy about the tension between the two. Now, what we could talk about is you guys' feelings on how to treat the rioters down in LA. Or let me rephrase that. They're not rioters. Individuals who could or could not be citizens, who may or may not be executing their rights as possible citizens, maybe not citizens, to protest, for which some of them are taking it to the illegal fashion and doing federal crimes. That would be a more accurate way of describing it. It's not a riot. My bad. Sorry. And I'll give you my conspiracy. The people they're picking up, obviously, are the dangerous ones that have warrants out for their arrest, either in this country or in the country that they ran from. And they're picking up the ones that are being protected by the upper echelon. If you saw that raid that happened in, where was that? It was up in the Northeast, real rich Democrat area, real wealthy Democrat area. Where is it? Maria's Island or something like that. There's up in the Northeast. They busted a whole bunch of illegals working there, and then they busted a Home Depot. They're just busting a lot of these bigger, wealthier people's companies, and it makes you wonder if those companies aren't the ones sponsoring the agitation, because now their profit margin gets affected. If they lose 100 employees due to illegal immigrants working, that means their profit margin just fell through the floor, because now they have to hire American citizens, and that costs them money, and that's a sin. They'd rather hire someone that they don't have to have on the books or something. I don't know. It just seems weird. Martha's Vineyard. Thank you very much, James. It was Martha's Vineyard where they did a lot of busts. And my conspiracy is they're doing targeted raids in areas where they know the main people that could have been used for an insurrection attempt, lieutenants and higher, are staying and working and integrating into our society until the time comes that they're called on to do their thing. Because it seems like there's a lot of wanted felons other than the felony of being an illegal alien. Multiple other charges are on these people in the groups that they're busting up. And what that tells me from an intelligence perspective is they're gathering in numbers those that are willing to be the main agitators in doing something such as a possible insurrection. Because if you go into a place like, say, Martha's Vineyard, and pick up like 100 illegal aliens, all of them having felony warrants on them, or rape charges, or assault and robbery charges, or murder charges on them, and they're all in this one area, I gain suspicion to a possible insurrection attempt by the other side of the aisle from the January 6th supposed attempted thing. Because, they're hitting select areas, and they're doing it in force to guarantee that they nab them. And if you want to stop an internal country overthrow, that's how you round the people up that you need to round up, the leaders of the perceived group that's threatening to do some sort of a coup attempt. You pick up all their lieutenants and commanders of whatever that unit is that they would have created to do such an action. And when you do that, you would go in and force to guarantee that you'd get them and that their subordinates on the outside would only riot rather than just protest. And there's a difference between the two words of rioting, burning cars down, spitting in people's faces, and protesting. So you got to look at how the news is selling it to you and just change the perspective on their perspective. Instead of, they say, what do they call them? Protesters. They're actually rioters, insurrectionists, because what they're doing is they are protesting the legal right of a sovereign country to get wanted felons that are illegal to begin with, that have already committed crimes or convicted of committing crimes out of this country. So it's a total legal process going on. Why would people get so angry? I don't think it's a bunch of Americans down there that are getting angry at it. I think that's because LA is known for having a large population of illegals. And I think what it is that I think they're again, just like what I said, they picked up all the lieutenants and the captains of an agitation group that was going to start some sort of coup in that area. And all of their subordinates are on the outside rioting. And that's how you would stop a quote unquote coup, a possible coup. Well, I didn't want to say that, but I was beating around the bush on the words because I don't think they're organized enough. And I think with the takedowns that have just happened, again, I think all the lieutenants and commanders of their agitation have been picked up. And now all that needs to happen is all the internal politicians and federal officials that might be involved in this. Like, for example, in the January 6th, no one talks about it, but there was 27, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe there was, and time will tell when the information does finally get released. I believe there was 27 federal employees inside the crowd in January 6th seen actually antagonizing the crowd to go further and further. That right there is an attempted insurrection, but it wasn't by the crowd. It was by those 27 federal agents that were in the crowd pushing them in the direction. Because if you understand how mob rules, the psychology of mob rules, and the legal actions that you can take under a mob rules scenario, they have these separate legal issues that they've already been worked out and psychological terminologies and group patterns, because things change in a larger group. And the theory of stupidity by Dietrich Bonhoeffer also explains how people's IQ lowers when you get in a large group, because again, you get motivated by others and caught up in the psychology of the crowd. So if you have a certain number of agitators in those large groups, you can manipulate the direction of that crowd from a peaceful crowd to an agitated crowd. So since they've picked up all these guys in the hundreds of these different businesses and the riots have started on the outside, again, I think the people they've picked up were they're like lieutenants, captains, and leaders of these future groups that would supposedly have done something. And all of the people on the outside that are pissed and rioting would have been like their subordinates. And if you look at it like that, it more illustrates what's actually happening down there with the rioting rather than protesting. Because ISIS picked up people in other places and they protest, they don't riot. And so if you look again, demographics in LA, there is an unusually large number of illegal aliens, because it's the first city you get to, big city, sanctuary city from the Mexican border. And if it's a sanctuary city, well, how many hundreds of thousands of illegals do you think are down in that sanctuary city a couple miles north of the border? You see what I'm saying? So it could be a total staged by the press to try and further agitate the rest of the nation into something like what you guys were saying that this guy, Matt Bracken, supposedly said. And I think that's being squashed. And I hope for all of our sakes it is. And I hope that narrative gets taken out by the actions that are being taken right now. And I hope the signal being sent by those picking up the illegals and by the illegals that they're picking up, I hope that signal to both sides everywhere else in America this scent that it won't be tolerated, whatever they're planning, and seeing how LA is probably one of the bigger cells of a possible insurrection attempt or coup attempt, I can see the others falling and dispersing and over time getting picked up and deported. It already has, I believe. Me too, brother. Me too. I stay, and I state it. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. You take two stones, a positive stone and a negative stone on a flat, glassy lake. Whatever stone you throw in there, no matter how small it is on a glassy lake, it's going to ripple and hit the whole shoreline of that lake, which means it has a massive impact as a small pebble. If there's 1,000 people throwing pebbles out there, it's going to be big waves hitting every shoreline. If they're all negative stones, you're going to have a bad outlook, a bad future, and a bad reality. So throw the good stone. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Please, it does help everyone else's psyche in leading us in the direction more of, in my personal feelings, a godly direction that he would want us to live, while still getting justice, not allowing the agitators to rile us up. And that's why for well over a year, I've spoken on several different occasions about the Dietrich Bonhoeffer letters known as The Theory of Stupidity. I've encouraged everyone to read it, because if you do, you can see if you have fallen in that psychological trap that has been set for us, that scholars, theologians, PhDs, smart people, everyone falls into it. It goes beyond IQ. It's a psychological trap, a long set trap to change people's perceptions to someone else's perception. And that is how you went from Germany to the brown coats in Germany to Nazi Germany. And it's an infectious thing. It hits everyone, smart people, stupid people, everybody. And it can only stop if we all recognize it and stop it. And if you read the Dietrich Bonhoeffer letters known as The Theory of Stupidity, you can get a better gauge of where in your area you're at in the in the theory of stupidity for the your society that you're in, your town, city, county, wherever you're at in America, and trying to make change to derail that stupidity. And then you come in, I can't make change. It only takes a 3% move to change everything. So if there's 100,000 people in your city, just 3,000 feeling that way and doing a little something, each 3,000 doing something will change the direction. The American Revolution was started with 3% of the population, and they won. So it don't take much. But if everyone's negative, well, that takes away from that 3% real fast. And then, hey, they win. All because of a personal choice to be negative rather than positive. Yeah, platinum's going up, baby. Another 1,056, and it'll hit its all-time high of 13 years ago or so, 14 years ago. Yeah, and I also encourage people to look at Clean Air Metals, the stock Clean Air Metals. It's the newest platinum miner on the planet. Their stock is like 3, 4 cents right now because they haven't pulled any platinum out of the ground. As soon as they do, holy shit, you'll wish you had some. That's all I can say. It's not financial advice, just kind of sort of common sense. Miners go up as soon as they pull ore out of the ground. It's just how it is. And they are real close to pulling ore out of the ground. So think about that one. It's Clean Air Metals. Also think about this. I did a show on this. MJNA. It's a medical marijuana stock. November 6, 2024, the DEA and the Justice Department sat down and started working on descheduling marijuana from a class 1 to a class 3 felony. And the reason they gave is because of its industrial and medical uses. Of course, they have a lot of legal navigation. That's why the DEA and Justice Department both sat down and started working on that complex issue to change this from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, but it is happening. When that does happen, the current standing president during his last administration made a campaign promise to legalize marijuana medically nationwide. He did not and could not do that because law would not allow it. The law is actively currently being worked on to be changed to make medical marijuana not a class 1 felony, but a class 3 felony, which allows for the medical legalization nationwide of it. So obviously, to gain favor, you would think that the party in charge who made that promise would keep that promise to gain a couple percentage points on the popularity scale. So if all of that is true, the company or the stock MJNA should skyrocket as soon as medical marijuana is legalized nationally, because it's a medical marijuana stock. And it's not financial advice, that's just common sense. Through the geopolitical, or for us, it's not geopolitical, for us, it's American political system, and everything going on in the American political system actually affects companies. I can prove that by, if you look at nanonuclear technologies, 3 days before they went from like 25 up to 45, I had told a buddy of mine to buy some because it was fixing to jump. I even said it on a live stream. So you just search my live streams for that date where I was talking about nanonuclear, and you can see what I said. It jumped. It almost doubled in 3 days after I was talking about it. It went back down, but you got a chance to double your holdings by selling on the way up, buying when it was back down to its low, and now it's slowly working. It's like at 30 something now, 30, 29, 30. So it's still on an upward trajectory, but it's got these bounces where you can really profit and rebuy back in, sell high, rebuy back in, get more shares. So I do know what I'm talking about when I say, and the reason why that happened is because I knew Trump was going to make a speech on micronuclear energy. And the whole fucking world knew about it. It was presented in paperwork of his future documentation of what he's going to do, where's his itinerary of the future. It was stated in there he was going to talk about it. So I knew as soon as he talked about it on national TV, that stock would jump. To me, that's a no-brainer. No one else seems to do that type of research on stuff. Because hey, what's up, Jeffrey? Because when the president goes on national TV and talks about a sector of anything, energy sector or whatever, there's certain stocks in that sector that'll jump. And the president just doesn't come out all willy-nilly and start talking about shit. If you look at his itinerary, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever, you look at, you'll see what that is, and you can start looking into it, and you can really start hitting some better stock percentages for winners over losers, because you'll have not insider information, public information that the public chooses not to look at to gain financial advantage of. Next time I find out that he's going to talk about nanonuclear, or some other person in his administration is going to talk publicly about micronuclear or anything like that, all the stocks are going to jump. Every time Trump comes out and says, America's going to own the energy sector for the world, and we're going to be world leaders for 200 to 300 years because of it. Man, look at those stocks. They're jumping because that's what he's talking about. And the whole world knows it. Well, at least the people with money know about it, and other countries know about it. So, they tell us, they front run what's going to happen in certain scenarios. If you just look at those certain scenarios or are aware of this, so where you can look at those certain scenarios, and whether or not you're into that investment sector or not, you can still profit from it. And everyone's into profit. That is beyond Democrat, Republican, Independent, Communist, Socialist. They all love profit, baby. So you shouldn't be adverse to that. Advert to looking at information that way and take financial advantage from what your government puts out for you to take advantage of that nobody seems to. And that's just one of the areas of research I do to find things. Do that for other governments too. Other governments put out forecasts of future development for them as well. It's really awesome, man. They pretty much lay it out. They're usually about 10 to 15 years late, but damn, man, for a 10, 15, 20-year investment, they're easy to make. It was 1998. The government put out a pre-listing of their 2000 forecast for the next 20 years in the direction of America. And my second cousin, who I was living with, her friend, who actually she used to babysitting when he was a kid, real rich guy, he saw that paperwork of the projected future direction of America, and it said by 2020, a lot of people will be, or no, it was by 2010, a lot of people would be into storage units and having their stuff in storage units, and that business would skyrocket. So the dude got in at about 2001, 2002. He started about like 4, 5, 6 of them here in the Bay Area. And he had to wait about 10 years before it kicked off, because it didn't really start kicking off until like 2017, 2018, 2019 out here. And then it really ran 2019, 2021. And to this day, that's a booming business. So the government put that forecast out in 2000 on a 20-year plan, saying that about 10 years it'll start. It actually took 16 or 17 years. So they were 7 years off of their target. And you can always expect that with a country's forecast of their ambitions of what's going to happen with the country, because there's always external forces out there wanting change in a different direction, which will derail for a short period of time. In which case, with the storage units, it was like a 7-year time period derailment. But yeah, and also, Jeffro, if you watch TV programs, these stupid reality TV programs, they give you insight to the direction of the economy. When you start seeing like salvage wars or storage wars, well, then that's because it's big business, and you should actually start looking at it. And it's like that show is an awakening to the retail mindset of that business, which means you're already late, because they're trying to bring retail into it, and they're profiting off of actually views of that industry rather than people getting into that industry. As far as buying a whole complex of storage units, not just, well, even though when they auction off, you can do that as well. But it's the difference between people running out in 1849 California gold rush with a pan and a shovel and a pick, or a sewing machine. Who do you think made more money? I can tell you already, the person that came out with sewing machine at 1849 gold rush made more money than 99.5% of the guys who came out here with pick shovels and sluices, because she had all of their business and took all of their gold for her services. And they didn't find gold every day, but they always ripped something, and she always fixed it. Historical. There's a story about her, historical story about her. Yeah, there you Finn. Then you know what I'm talking about. They depending on when you owned it and when you sold it, there was a possibility you could have made some serious bank. Depending, I don't know anything about when you got in, when you got out, and also what state. Certain states, obviously, every state's not going to have the same economic boost. Out here in California, someone sneezes and 50 people lose their job, and they're so overextended, it doesn't take long for them to have to move out of their house and need a storage place. So it happens rapidly and consecutively out here, because we recycle people fast. It's like a slot machine. That's why most of the storage wars you'll see is they're in California or Utah or Nevada. You won't see storage wars in Alabama or Louisiana or Kentucky. Sorry, I took a 420 break. But yeah, I just wanted to bring you another story. 2 days ago, one big fire on a boat that they just decided to write the whole fucking boat off. And today, another story where they just wrote the boat off, a little bit less than 1,000-foot boat. So just keep an eye out for insurance fraud cases. Oh, wow. So you collected insurance on it. That sucks, dude. That sucks, man. Someone else fucked your dream up. I've had it happen, bro. I know. It sucks, bro. It fucking sucks. It's part of the growth experience of life, though. That's when after shit happens like that, you sit back and say, how did I protect myself to where if this happened, I could restart? And it gets you to reimagining business layouts and performances and financial directions and what I call a war chest. Anytime you start an LLC, you should have a certain percentage of profits go into what it would be a war chest or an accumulation of assets, cash, gold, whatever, that you can access to continue your business and keep it solvent. And a lot of people don't. Most everybody does not do that. And that's a shame. But it is what it is. I didn't do it. I mean, I've never done it. I haven't gotten that far. I keep getting fucked before I get that far. But you learn, every time you get up and get knocked down, you learn and you get stronger. And then eventually one day you stand up and that thing that knocked you down fucking shatters when it hits you because you're too strong and you know too much and you were ready for it. And you prepared and you set. And when it came in, it shattered. Instead of hurting you, it broke apart. And then you move up the ladder of wealth through determination and sheer spirit. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and end this one before it gets too long. Thank every one of you for stopping in. I just wanted to bring the attention to the shipping stuff and a lot of fires. And if you do your own independent research, you'll find that about 2 years ago, there was quite a few shipyards in Turkey and Indonesia. The whole shipyard itself caught on fire and they let it burn. And it was shortly after, here's an indicator spot for you, the largest yacht company in the world for exotic high-end yachts was out of Germany. They went bankrupt and shut their doors like 3 or so years ago, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And after that, about less than a year after that, there was 3 or 4 big fucking fires at shipbuilding places where they, like their warehouses where they built the ships, burned down and everything. And they never rebuilt them back. They just took the insurance money and ran. And now another step down from that is the smaller companies in shipping allowing their boats to burn down. So I'm seeing a long-term pooling out of money of the shipbuilding industry from these corporations over like a 3-year time period, different sectors of it, kind of domino effect if you look at the whole industry. And I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. You're probably right, but no one cares and nothing will happen. But I just want to bring attention to it. You guys have a great, great week. Happy Monday. Make a lot of money. Look into Clean Air Metals platinum stock out of Thunder Bay, Canada, and look into MJNA, medical marijuana stock, and then look into, as far as crypto, ZBCN, because they're going to be like a credit card of the digital realm, along with others, but they've already got contracts with several countries and MasterCard. They're actually partnered up with MasterCard. So look into them, XLM, Stellar XLM, and Algo. And then, of course, precious metals, silver and platinum. So I diversify asset classes. Also, if you can, buy land, buy houses. Once this crash comes that's coming, then fucking buy some land, buy some houses, pick up houses cheap. I'm looking at houses that were $200,000 and now $115,000 in Alabama. I'm like, can't wait to get a job, 4 or 5 paychecks. I'm going to get a fucking signature loan to get those sons of bitches. Anyhow, you guys have a great evening, and I will talk to you later.